Voting is underway in the Imo, Bayelsa and Kogi states, and we're bringing you live updates from the field as regards the 2023 off-cycle elections in these states. I'm here in the studio with Stanley Alieke, legal practitioner. Thank you for staying the course on the program. Interesting developments we've followed thus far. Some of the candidates who have spoken with us are quite impressed by INEC, but they've also raised some allegations. For instance, the governor in Bayelsa State did say that some party agents were stopped from going to Nembe. We also heard from Murtala Ajaka, who mentioned that, who alleged that original result sheets are missing in Okene, Okei, and Adavi. How do you respond to weighty allegations of this nature on election day? What is the standard practice? Who reacts and what's been done?
I don't know if I should react as an average Nigerian. So basically, there's nothing new. It's something we've been witnessing. The INEC are always making, they always make the excuse of logistic issues, and it's one of the excuses, the core excuse that the logistics, the insecurity, and the rest. But there is nothing new. But we are expecting this election should be like a way for the INEC to redeem their image. To this, it dampened a lot of spirit. It boosted political apathy. Talking about Bayelsa, Bayelsa has always been, I mean, their voter turnout always used to be very small. I think the last general election they recorded 16%. So it was even quite. I was smiling when the activists were talking about the number. That's by the way. Let me not respond to that. But basically, everyone will always praise INEC and say, okay, they've done much, they've done this, but we wait for the general outcome. It's too early for us to say, okay, this is the scorecard. How have they been doing? But from what I've been seeing from your men on ground saying these days, we are here to see, maybe they are trying to shade that part of the media. They have not. I'm here to see outbreak of violence, of someone being intimidated, someone being harassed, or money being shared. I mean, we witnessed that one where we even saw on camera where people are even giving money, pay you, okay, go and do this, pay, and we are here to see it. I mean, maybe they have tried to, it will happen. This is Nigeria, it will happen. But even if it's happened, let it not happen brazenly, as if no one is watching, or even if we know that people is watching, we know that there are no consequences. No, it is wrong. Those are the things I'll be like, okay, people will say, okay, what is the need of me going out to vote? Because I don't believe that my vote will count. Even me as a legal practitioner, as I believe as an elite to some extent, I still struggle to go out on election days. Just imagine Abuja. I remember the last presidential election. We stood under the sun at Jabi in my polling unit. The sun was scorching and this, and we just have to vote. And
earlier this year
in February. And after the election, when you see that, you stood on the ground and made sure that everything was collated. You even have to do this thing. Sometimes you have to say, okay, now we day here. It don't go happen. At the end of the day, you still see the magic happen. You'll be like, but no be so.
The magic happening at your own polling unit?
It happened everywhere. It was national spread.
No, because what happens in your polling unit is not reflective of what's happening across the country.
Because
that's where also many people get it wrong. They feel that my candidate won in my polling unit, and then they just want to have that happen across board. It's quite different.
You are a media person. You know. Let's say you call this person. What happened in your polling unit? Okay, this candidate won. What happened here? This candidate won. What happened here? This candidate won. When there is the general consensus, I'm not talking about the Twitter, publicity, and the rest. Now, you be on ground, you've called other persons and this thing, and just like what I said earlier, it was quite unfortunate because from the provisions of the Electoral Act of the 2022, the amendment with the one that was amended, there were some core provisions that gave us that hope that there is, and the Supreme Court, by the latest judgment of this presidential election, and the Awesa final. Now they say that the transmission, the INEC that provision is discretionary. I mean, it's occasional. INEC is not mandated to electoral transmit, and It shouldn't be so. Then why is it provided for? Now, it shouldn't be a matter of convenience. It should be a matter of, okay, this is what the law said. If it does not go this way, this should be on the basis of this should be the basis of appeal. And that was some of the prayers of the presidential appeal. They are saying that, okay, the law provided for, even in the INEC electoral guidelines, they provided for it, we didn't ask for it, in their paragraph 38. They said, okay, they use the word must. Now, we should follow, maybe we'll go to call, we should be talking about semantics and the rest of the interpretation. But when we see must, we know that it is a mandatory, that, okay, must, in paragraph 38, sub 1, say they must transmit. Now, sub 2, they say they must use the beavers to scan and upload. Sub 3, they say they must, after doing that, they must carry every other document and everything, and take it to the collection center in the presence of an enforcement agency. But that was not what happened.
We seem to have a better understanding of that law now with the position of the Supreme Court. But I want us to speak to the issue of voter apathy that you raised, because in 2023, we had less than 30% of voter turnout, even though we have the numbers when you talk about the biggest democracy on the continent. But you consider that 3 out of 10 people who have their PVCs actually came out in February and March. Have we found out what the reasons are? Is it that the numbers are bloated? Because that's also a possibility, that maybe we don't have as much people on our register. Or what do you think is responsible for the, abysmal turnout that we experienced 8 months ago?
Now, we like to say, statistically speaking, I think we recorded a higher turnout when you want to compare it.
I'm saying relative to the PVCs collected, to the registered voters, it's less than 30%.
Yes, you are right. Even in Bayelsa, I was looking at the data. I think about this year, just a few number above 1 million of registered voters. So, just like what you've been saying, if you check what have been happening from 1999, 2003, 2007, 2011. You go and cast your vote, your spirit will be dampened that, okay, the vote, an average Nigerian believe that vote doesn't count. Now, when your vote counts, just like what happened in, it was one of the things that are playing to the disadvantage of the current governor of Imo State. Now, they give him a popular name on the street. They say Supreme Court governor. Now, people are saying that we voted for this person, and now the Supreme Court did their magic in quote. I shouldn't be saying this because I'm a lawyer. But
I'm surprised myself, because are you saying that the Supreme Court didn't know what they were doing at the time?
Of course, you would not there's only the grievances. You will not. It's not every. They say they are final because they are infallible. They are infallible because stuff like that. But of course, they are human beings. But the
decision then at the point was that there was certain
388
polling units, which was eventually added to Uzodima's figures.
Yes, that was what was stated, but there are.
So they didn't bring, because the perception is that the Supreme Court
they brought him from fourth position and
they just brought him from fourth to first. That wasn't what happened. What happened was they said there were some cancelled votes that were now brought in and added to his figure, and that's how he emerged. Except you are, doubting the integrity of the apex court. except you're doubting, the integrity of the Supreme Court.
I had serious grievances concerning that decision. Maybe it's not something I would be really comfortable sharing now. But
I understand that many people consider it controversial, but we've left that. We're now 4 years, past what happened there. But my concern really is, some would say, if you look at the figures, when you consider elections in 1999, 2011, before the beavers, it's easy to add up the numbers, because we had Michael Jackson voting there. We had quite a number of dead people who were voting. Some are saying perhaps the reason why the numbers have drastically reduced now is because of the integrity of the process, that it's practically impossible now to vote if you are not registered and carrying a PVC.
And it's not really the integrity of the process. I think what happened now is the widespread of technology. Before now, we don't know what goes on maybe in places like Kano, but recently we know that places like Kano, that their numbers are always high, that huge percentage of that numbers are underage voting. We see videos of children lining up, lining up to vote and thumbprint and stuff. But due to maybe because of the people are quick to video and say, okay, this is what is happening here, this is what. So, and of course, some numbers are always, even in census, you'll be hearing some figures in some states, you'll be like, no. Especially some northern, I did my law school in Kano. So you would drive through you drive like 30 minutes, there will be nobody residing there. But when you see some census figures, they'll be like, you'll be hearing millions of people living here. Like, where are they? Did they count cows? Those are the things. But now, by the use of the technology, and so we are still waiting for the new census to be done, so that we know it might not be proper, it might not be right, but the closest of how many we are. But the apathy is contributed by the nonchalance of the INEC, the intimidation. A lot of things went down during the last election. I won't blame anyone that in 4 years' time I said, especially in Lagos State, I said, okay, I'm not coming out to vote because the intimidation, the brutalization was too much. I cannot come out to come and cast my vote when I'm not sure that I will be safe doing that. That maybe one tout or one tout. And the problem is, it has happened, it will happen, and till now, we lawyers will be keeping our ear on the ground to hear, okay, what are the consequences? Nobody has been prosecuted. We have not heard anything. Even INEC was subpoenaed during this presidential election, and they did not show. Now, basically, in law, we call that contempt of court, but nobody have paid. There's nothing, head have not rolled. Nobody have been sanctioned for that. And these are the things that makes mockery of our judicial system. How can the election tribunal petition you if you cannot come? Okay, maybe the chairman cannot. Why not say the person? Okay, we need some document. They refuse to tender it. Now, contempt of court is crime. Nobody have been prosecuted for that. The same thing with the brutalization, intimidation, harassment of voters. Till now, we saw some video. There are electronically transmitted evidences that those things happen. There are some people, okay, maybe what will happen is they will arrest some people, they release them. Because people, they don't make it public because of the ripple effect. They will ask you, they will always hear that there is one big oga at the top send you. Now, they don't want to get some names involved. They will hush it, and that will sweep it on the carpet. So that is one of the major contributors. Are
you optimistic of an improvement in this process when you consider, how much how many personnel have been deployed? Security-wise, we've seen new layers of supervision. Each state, because elections are now holding, simultaneously in 3 geopolitical zones. Each of these states, the operations are being led by a deputy inspector general of police, and we've seen quite a number of police hierarchy posted in this regard. On the side of INEC, we have supporting resident electoral commissioners, about 9 of them. So in each state there are 10 resident electoral commissioners actually supervising this election. Are you optimistic that would in a way improve the quality from what we had earlier this year?
I love to be optimistic, but as you said, the money spent. Don't forget that the last general election, about 305 billion was spent. So, and it was abysmally poor.
Elections are expensive everywhere in the world.
It is, but if there's some money you spend on things, you'll be expecting.
Well, probably not even spending more than Kenya when you consider how much we're spending for elections.
At least, even if,
and we're way bigger.
Even if Kenya spend billions of dollars, it is justifiable. Just like I said, Kenya have been able to achieve.
Are you saying that you have not observed an improvement? Because I just mentioned that unlike before, where it is possible, if the machine wasn't working, you use an incidence form. That's not acceptable now. You have to go through the machine. So that means it's practically impossible for you to vote if you're not registered. You don't consider that an improvement in the process?
Now, there were some germane improvements.
Which we spent money for, by the way.
Not even before the money. There were some real improvement that was introduced by the amendment of the Electoral Act in 2022. But it has been whittled down by the Supreme Court. So that the judgment of the Supreme Court has given INEC a lot of loopholes now. I said, okay, it's not a matter of, it's not a mandatory requirement. Now, it should not be a subject of convenience. Of course, I'm hopeful.
But we also have to consider, I understand your concern, but are you also paying attention to the reality on the ground? INEC could not upload results on IRA for days. As at yesterday, INEC is still telling us that in some places it might take 2 hours to have these results uploaded. So if you insist on an electronic transmission, do you have the structure? Do you have the capacity to make it happen? I mean, shouldn't we work with what is available per time? We can go back to the National Assembly and review the act in the coming 4 years.
Of course, you are right. But I believe everyone knows that with the right on that Nigeria, we are not there. We are not there.
We're not there yet. There are times when
with
your phone you have issues,
yes,
getting internet, and then we do it on a large scale. It becomes a big
lot
mess.
of money was spent on our technology, so we expected an optimal result. That has been my concern. But we do to just like say. It's too early now to give a scorecard. Maybe at the end of today, maybe by tomorrow, we will see. Maybe when you go on Twitter, if there are no brutalization, intimidation, and the security apparatus headed by the DIG, we'll say, okay, something has been done. But these are not the first time. Some states, during election, I remember back then in Edo State, you see the military, they did parade and this thing, driver. I forgot what they call it now.
Show of force.
Show of force. And you still see things will still not, even reversed in the last election. In the presence of security agencies, and we saw videos, it's no longer rumor, of the game that the then governor played and trying to change the outcome of some electoral result and this thing. But you'll be wondering, why are you there? You are maybe, and the funny thing is, a police officer answers to the federal. So you don't have that excuse that you have to be subjected to the state or you have to be under the governor. No, you report directly to Abuja. So what was happening in River State then or some state, it was quite unfortunate because I was speaking with some officers and said, why did you let this happen? I said, the governor is there, the number one citizen of the state. I said, no, you are not answerable to the governor. You report directly to Abuja. So it does not. You don't have to do shonsa to everything. You see that. You are an officer of the law, despite who is doing it. But that aside, we are hopeful. I just don't want to raise my hope high till the end of today before we'll see. Because definitely, I still have a huge grievances on. This should be an opportunity for them to redeem their image. If not, we will know that they're intentionally in cahoots of what was going on. They know, but let's just give them the leverage and see what comes at the end of today.
Absolutely. Quite a number of people are optimistic, and particularly, voters in Imo, Kogi, and Bayelsa who have gone all out to have their PVCs and who are also ready to exercise their franchise. But very importantly is also the fact to note that there are multi-stakeholders in this process. There is what INEC can do. Yes. There's what INEC cannot do if it's not enabled by security agencies to operate because they don't carry arms. Now, there's also the way political stakeholders can frustrate the system, no matter how fine you think your security, infrastructure is. Do you think that we are maturing in that regard in our politicking? Is it getting saner by the day? And would you say that the people are also asking the right questions, from those that they elected to office?
Now, just like you said, especially the problem is always the political stakeholders who are desperate that they can do anything. Now, sometimes you will see them. There's no how they try to deny the fact. There are some things that will happen. You just know that it's coming from this camp. Is this social God that sent them? And all these things happen out of desperation, just like what you said. And those are the things that mass election. Those are the things that makes it, people say, we are not safe. Just like what have been happening in Imo State. If you ask the incumbent governor will tell you that it's the opposition that are sponsoring the insecurities to make sure that it doesn't have a fair chance.
Hold that thought for a minute. We have breaking news. INEC has now reacted to the exclusive interview we had with Murtala Ajaka earlier in Kogi State, saying that the Commission's attention has been drawn to reports that the field result sheets were discovered in some polling units in Kogi State. The Commission says it views this situation seriously and that its senior officials have been deployed to the state and they are currently investigating the incident. INEC says it will be communicating its decision earnestly. Well, we're following that development very closely as we hear from INEC as to the huge allegations made by one of the candidates in Kogi State. Bamidele Ajayi joins me now for more. Bamidele is in Imo. What's the update where you are, Bamidele? We'll get back to him subsequently. Of course, INEC just responded to the allegation made by one of the candidates that some original result sheets are now being viewed. According to him, he posted some of them online. INEC says it's also worried about this development. This is part of what I'm saying, that some things were possible, 5-10 years ago. Now, it's practically impossible to, because I covered the National Collation Center. Before you fill the result sheet, it's usually well protected and sealed. And then the INEC official tears it open and shows it to everyone that it is empty. And then they start filling it under the supervision of all the stakeholders. You must agree to the fact that the processes, we're not there yet, absolutely. But it's not what it used to be. Especially when you hear such, a fast response from INEC as regards this allegation. What are your thoughts?
Of course. They have been having improvement, but I just don't want to give them the leverage. They have been having improvement and stuff like that. But the truth is, they are mischief makers. No matter how well protected or how well you want to guard it, they will still find a way, a loophole to penetrate. So that has always been the worry. Some Nigerians can be very creative when they want to do some funny things. So we've seen some, after even filling it in, you see some people using T-paste to erase and change numbers and stuff. So these are the things that will be happening. So I'm quite impressed with the speed at which INEC responded to show that, okay, thank you for bringing this to our attention. We will pay attention to it. And they know that since it has gotten media attention, people will be now interested to see the magic that want to happen there. So, of course, I'm quite happy at the way they responded. That's an improvement. Not that maybe later, maybe 2 days, 3 days later, they will try to disclaim and say it never happened. But with this speedy response, we believe that their eyes or they have someone on ground monitoring the situation and see what happens.
INEC has been speaking lately about training its ad hoc staff. They said they don't want to be called ad hoc again, and then that the need for them to stay true to the standards and the dictates of the office they currently occupy. But how do you think we can begin to institutionalize excellence, and accountability to public offices like INEC, such that everyone, there's no political actor can lay their hands on a result sheet if a particular INEC staff has not compromised? What do you think had been done to build a system where it becomes practically impossible for anyone to err in that regard?
What comes to mind is some of these INEC staff, they are politically affiliated, no matter how much you want to hide it, and that is legally and morally wrong. You cannot be an INEC staff. I remember, was it last year or last year? That should be earlier last year, when the then President Buhari nominated Lorito Noche to be electoral commissioner. We were saying, although she denied that she is not a member of APC, but even if you are not a member of APC, you are serving, your boss is a member of APC. So no matter how much you try to be unbiased,
her appointment wasn't confirmed.
It was not, because people raised this point and said, okay, this thing could go wrong because you are, despite the fact that you claim that you are not a card-carrying member of an APC, you are affiliate, you associate, your boss is an APC member. So this first, if we want to start getting it from the appointment or the outward, we must make sure that they are not affiliated or they are not in any way. See, maybe it's literally impossible, but it can be done. If you see, just like nominating someone that have been singing the praises of APC as a political compensation. No, what do you expect? Maybe, my friends, is just like even in law, there's what they call fair hearing. If in court, if a judge is to sit on a matter that is expected that he has some sentiment, personal sentiment towards, let's say, his uncle, his friend, and stuff like that.
Indeed.
It's expected that he recuse himself from that thing, because no matter what, you will, is innate, is human nature for you to be somehow maybe biased or be. So if we want to start getting the appointment right, let's make sure that, okay, these people, they don't have any political affiliation to PDP, APC, Labour Party, or whatnot. So, and it must be laid down properly that if you're able to maneuver your way and you get appointed and you later find out, let it be a serious crime. so that people will sit up and say, okay, fine, it's no longer game as usual.
Again, it brings us to why we don't have, these crimes profoundly prosecuted, especially election crimes, those who snatch ballot boxes, those who compromise, INEC officials who did not do what they're supposed to do. What do you think are the bottlenecks to getting them from just being arrested to actually being prosecuted?
It's the ripple effect. Because a thug that snatched the bus, someone sent him. Now, if you want to trace it and say, okay, because there was always, sometimes if they get arrested and during investigation, that's why sometimes he's being swept under the carpet. Okay, who sent you? Is one big oga, maybe it's the governor of the state, maybe it's the senator, maybe the senator is a friend to the IG. The IG will say, okay, please, I'm interested in this matter. Let's let it. That has always been the problem. If not, there are provisions in law that say, okay, if you snatch about this, there are consequences. But sometimes we'll be waiting, okay, what happened? If there are, just like in Lagos State, where someone, a very popular, famous person was intimidating voters and said, okay, you must vote for this person. But because of his status in the society, is it George Orwell and say some animals are equal, but some are more equal? It's something we'll be seeing happening that, okay, despite the fact that, okay, if Mr. A does this, he can be prosecuted. Maybe if you don't have a political godfather that will plead your cause and say, okay, fine. That has been the problem. The law should be administered to no matter who's or is God. That has been it. That everyone is equal before the law. But because of the political atmosphere of Nigeria, even when the judges or the court or the prosecutors or the law enforcement agents want to do their job, that's only be the problem. You see someone arrested for electoral malpractice, for electoral crime, or for electoral stuffs, then before you know it, someone have called, a big man have called, and he's being released. You wonder what happened. We see someone chasing people around with cutlass, brutality. But no, people are interested in this matter. What happened? To end up just like what I said, is one big organ that sent them. Now, if they want to go down to this, someone will be indicted. Someone seriously that has a serious power will be indicted. And because of the ripple effect, everyone will just want to fold their sleeve and watch.
We were talking about the role of social media, in advancing fake news earlier, but we just saw that it's also helping to bring the attention of authorities to the situation on the ground. How do you work around it? I mean, it has its pros and its cons.
Yes. Even that's the thing about society. If law is being made or if law is being amended, they will weigh the pros and cons and say, okay, are the pros higher than the cons? If okay, let's let it be. Then if the demerit outweighs the merit, then we will look for a way to strike a balance. But that's how it is. If we just need how to curtail the use of social media in Nigeria. I mean, I'm sounding more like a conservative now because I've seen it destroy life. I've seen. I mean, even in the US, in some advanced country, it's the social media that sometimes shapes some of their policies. So is that important? But sometimes you just wake up and see some news trending that are unverified and this thing. Some people should be made examples out of it and say, okay, fine, you share this news. Okay, if you want to claim that it's not from you, it came from your handle, it came from your newsroom. Who is responsible? Someone must bear the brunt, but not just look at it because there have been provision. There should be a strict law.
But the way this information is being consumed, do you think it's illiteracy on the part of the consumers? Because there are about maybe 30 to 45 million Nigerians on X, for instance. Are you saying that with the sophisticated conversation you see on Twitter that people cannot tell when the news is fake, or they just want it to be true, even though when they know that it doesn't add up?
The funny thing is, most of those news are sponsored. So some people, even people that know that it's fake, will keep pushing it. Now, when they say when falsehood is being paraded for a long time, people will tend to believe that is the truth. So, and some people, due to lazy, not even illiteracy, maybe you are too lazy to verify the authenticity, or maybe what they call in psychology confirmation bias. A falsehood is so much wanted to be true, you don't care to verify it. You just want to, or maybe someone you look up to posted it, or someone is said, they'll be like, I believe it's coming from this sound or it's coming from this person. That has been not literally an illiterating. Maybe you are too lazy to verify, or you want it to be true. You just want it because it appeases your personal sentiment, or just like when they say the PDP governorship candidate, some people so much want it to be true. Even people that know that, when I saw that news, of course, I know that the first thing you just have to be like, how possible this is. So you just hold it with a pinch of salt, because the person that the Samayao he has done a huge, now stepping down, it doesn't just make sense that then when I say, okay, maybe the level of credibility he has because of the station that it came from. That was it. So people try to, so that has been the problem. People maybe verify the news source. Even when you verify, hold it with a picture, so because technology has gone far with the deep fake technology. I can be here now in this studio and someone will be like, okay, say fine, make a video of me somewhere in Lagos saying something that I didn't say. They can mimic your voice, but let's see. We actually need, because as society advances, laws have been made to cater for what is going on in that society at a point in time. Now we've seen what is going on.
Well, what we have called it is a gag of, gag of the social media and infringement on human rights. You know that the Ninth National Assembly attempted to restrict social media, but the outcry was much. Do you think people understand, the urgency and the implication, particularly the negative implication of the abuse of these platforms?
That's why I say I made mention of China and North Korea. But if we want to guard it, if we want to, there should be maybe a slight restriction of the use of social, especially Twitter, of the news that goes on there. People should be. It's not just like what I said. Although it might be an infringement of Section 41 of freedom to speak, but there is no fundamental human. There is no law that is wholesome. Every law have an exception. That you have a right to speak. You should also know that another person, you should be accountable if what you say is defamatory. Absolutely. That is an exception. You cannot, because you say I have a freedom. Even as I'm here speaking now, as you're speaking, you should watch your word, because you know that, okay, you are answerable. It doesn't matter that I'm saying something else.
Just a minute. We have live pictures from Imo State, where Governor Hope Uzodinma is now approaching the polling unit to cast his vote. Is dressed in white, and you can spot his red car of his wife. Quite a number of the candidates have voted earlier. Now Hope Uzodinma is approaching, being chaired by some of the people who are already on the queue. It's hard to tell where the queue is, if the governor is going right in front of the queue. Perhaps they've given him that privilege to vote. He just approached the INEC officials, who are now examining his permanent voter card. We'll wait to see how seamless, hopefully, this process will be. We saw Governor Diri earlier at his polling unit, where he spent less than 2 minutes, to cast his ballot. A very interesting developments coming across polling units in Imo State. It's been a mixed bag of reports of early arrival in some places, and of course how the BVAS machine is also functioning. It's a two-way approach. You either use your fingerprint, and then they also capture your face to identify that you are the true owner of the card, and then they mark your finger with an ink and give you a ballot paper with which you can thumbprint the candidate of your choice and drop the paper inside a ballot box. It's supposed to be that simple, but in some areas that we got report from earlier today, there were issues with the BVAS machine. We understand that has been affected in Kogi, and we're looking forward to see how it will work with the Imo State governor, who is now about to cast his ballot. Some of these politicians, Mr. Alieke, you find out that no matter how you win election, you have to return to the ballot. The expectation is that should guide the principle of leadership, should guide your, your conduct as incumbent. But beyond just the off-cycle election, do you think that has been paramount? Do you think that public officials have paid so much attention to the acceptability amongst the electorate, as that being a guiding light for how they behave and what they do when they are in government?
I think if we talk about acceptability or popularity of politicians or how they are accepted, I don't think an average Nigerian politician doesn't care much about that. If it's more pronounced, maybe in the US, in the UK.
You really think they don't care? Because they have to return to the ballot.
So let's say now someone like the incumbent governor of
all right, just a minute. The governor has just voted and is about to address the press. Let's hear from him what he thinks of the process and how well he thinks the stakeholders are faring today.
Hey, see my face, yo. You are covering my camera. Stay here. He's coming back.
Okay, so the governor just stepped away from the press in search of his wife. He jokingly just mentioned that he needs his wife beside him to be able to address the press. And interesting, we've seen quite a number of them, come to vote having their wives by their side. They say it's good luck, right? When you
and you are appeasing to some societal sentiment.
Oh, indeed.
Of course.
The cultural sentiment that you have a family.
Yes.
And then we'll see how that plays out for the governor in a few hours to find out if he gets majority
some of them
of
use
votes.
female as their deputy.
As deputy.
Of course.
Interesting, because I also noticed that in this election, out of about over 50 candidates, we just have 2 female governorship candidates across the 3 states, unlike in 2019 when we had about 10.
Yes.
Even though the number of political parties, we understand, have now reduced. The governor is now addressing the press. Let's listen to him.
So, His Excellency, you just voted. What are your thoughts about the conduct of today's election compared to the presidential and state assembly elections?
Well, I just observed that the voters on the queue appear to be very enthusiastic, and you could see the kind of joy that they're expressing, and the conduct has been very orderly. You can see the queue is very straight, and there is no interference. They have not seen anything that is suggesting that there will be any likelihood of disorganization. So it's an impressive outing too. You can see the number of people that have come out to vote. I'm not surprised because this is my hometown.
Yes.
Of course, you know that the prophet is rather known very strongly in his hometown. So the conduct is very impressive. I want to commend INEC. I want also to commend the security agencies with the kind of deployment they have done and how orderly the environment has become. And to the ugly expectation that the environment will not be there for voting to take place. You can see that the INEC has risen to the occasion and everything seems to be very normal. It is not over yet. I think I just came to vote and other people will still come to vote. But what I've seen here compared to what happened last time during February election is very impressive. And it is our hope that more people will come out. But at least my happiness is that we have the environment to conduct this election. And people have come to exercise their franchise. And voting is going on. I think INEC has done well, and we must commend them. Well, you see for yourself that the security agencies have properly deployed. And the entire space is manned and occupied. And people are responding positively and people are behaving themselves. I've not heard that there's any knockout anywhere to talk of bullets. So I think Imo State is good to go.
Sir, before now, there's been this perception about Imo State due to the insecurity situation ahead of this election. And now we're here. How do you tell the people that those things people hear outside are not what is happening, because most people are even afraid to even come down to Imo State to vote for this.
Some of us who are in politics to serve the people, some of us who are in politics for the interest of the people, stay with the people, discuss with people, and say what is really on ground. Some of us who are out to confuse the public, just go to the social media, fabricate stories, and publish. I want the whole world to now see that Imo State is a destination, and there is peace here. And the election, contrary to that ugly expectation, is going on free, fair, and very credible. And you can see how freely I've come here to cast my vote, and how also INEC was able to process it under a few minutes. So I think that this is an evidence for all of us in the country to know that the good minds in Imo State, the patriotic citizens of Imo State, people who are committed to the interests of our state, are really desirous of having Imo State blossom. But those who are in the name of politics, sponsoring and financing mischief, banditry, and all other forms of criminality, must repent of their sins.
Your Excellency, will you expect the outcome of the election?
The outcome, only God knows the outcome. I have voted, and people are still voting. At the end of the day, whatever God approved will be announced by INEC.
Your Excellency, sir. Your Excellency, sir, for an on behalf of the INEC Observer and Monitoring Team, we really want to commend you. You have been able to distinguish yourself between the governor and the candidate. That is what we commend about you, sir.
Thank you.
We pray that just as the last question was posed to you, and you answered it very fairly and impeccably.
Governor Hope Uzodimma there. He thinks that INEC's performance today has been quite impressive. He also mentioned the safe environment within which the poll is taking place, and that we must commend security operatives according to him. Now, the scripture he quoted earlier was actually the other way around. The scripture says, that the prophet is honorable everywhere except in his hometown. But he says that he must have used it in his own favor. All right, so I want to say a big thank you. We have to go now. It's been impressive what we've seen thus far. Hopefully it remains that way, and that in places where there are voter apathy, more voters will come out. I've been speaking with legal practitioner Stanley Alieke. Thank you so much for joining us on the program. We'll go on a short break now, and Veronica Danepoye is standing by to take the baton from here. I am Nifemi Okutoye, and we're monitoring developments across Imo, Bayelsa, and Kogi. Don't go away.